Welcome to the People of Animal Health podcast. The host of our podcast is Stacy Purcell. Stacy is the leading executive recruiter for the animal health and veterinary industries. She's the founder of Therio Partners and the Vet Recruiter. Stacy has placed more professionals in key positions within the animal health and veterinary industries than any executive search professional. And along the way, Stacy has built relationships with some outstanding people who are doing incredible things to make a difference. The People of Animal Health podcast features industry leaders and trailblazers who have made a significant impact or are making an impact in the animal health and veterinary industries. Stacy chats with them to learn more about their lives, their careers, and the unique and interesting things that they have done to contribute to the animal health or veterinary industries. She is here to share their stories with you. Now here's the host of our podcast, Stacy Purcell.
On today's show, we are talking with Dr. Juergen Horn, who has had quite an interesting career so far. Dr. Horn is a veterinarian with a PhD and MBA that worked most of his professional life in the animal health industry, bringing innovation to veterinary medicine. Dr. Horn worked in various roles for Novartis, Elanco, and was Chief Product Development Officer at NextVet and is now leading a new animal health company. Welcome on to the People of Animal Health podcast. And how are you, Dr. Horn?
I'm very good, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Well, we're so glad to have you here, Dr. Horn, and I know that you've had tremendous success at this point in your career. I'd like to start off at the bottom, and in the very beginning of your career. What was your life like growing up, and where did you grow up?
Yeah, that's quite a while ago. I grew up in a small town in Bavaria, in Germany, about 130 miles east of Munich. A town called Passau. It's directly at the border to Austria. Very pretty 50,000 people town. Also a little bit remote, especially at the time. It was still time of the Cold War, so the Iron Curtain to Czechoslovakia was about 40 minutes away. So it was quite a sort of a protected upbringing. We had good public schools, and all over it was pretty uneventful, but a good childhood, I guess, and upbringing, I can say.
Well, when did you first figure out what you wanted to do professionally?
Yeah, that was pretty early in my teenage years. I was interested in biology at school, and for some reason I decided that I wanted to become a veterinarian. I thought quite a lot about, many times what actually triggered that, and I honestly don't know. My family had nothing to do with agriculture or veterinary medicine. I had a distant relative who was a countryside vet in Germany. And after I came up with this idea that becoming a vet was what I wanted to do, he actually challenged that and took me out for a week. And he did carvings middle of the night. He also did meat inspection and things like that. So not only the glamorous kind of things of being a veterinarian in practice. But I still liked it, and it kind of confirmed my plan to become a veterinarian, and that really didn't change until I finished school and managed to get into vet school in Munich, and that's how it all started.
Wow, and then how did you go from there and get into the animal health industry?
Well, I studied in Munich, but I did my fourth year at the University of Sydney in Australia. I was a Rotary ambassadorial scholar. I sort of had the urge to see some parts of the world, and rather than backpacking, I wanted to do that in the context of my degree and study in a different place. I also saw practice in different countries. I spent some time in a small animal clinic in Spartanburg in South Carolina, and here in the US, and then in Windsor in the UK, which was very exciting because the practice that I worked in, they took care of the Royal Dairy Farm and also some of the horse racing courses there. So this was very good experience in seeing or experiencing the life as a veterinarian in the UK and England, which is still a little bit of a almost like a a novel. People know James Herriot, I guess. So it was a little bit like that in many ways. So that was a good experience. And then I practiced after I got my degree. I practiced a little bit in Germany in a small animal and horse practice, and then decided to do a PhD. And that brought me to the Royal Veterinary College in London, so back to the UK, where I also worked as an RVC at the RVC in the Equine Hospital. And as a part-time vet, I locumed. I'm not sure whether that's an American word, actually. So I part-time filled in for vets on vacation, basically, in the south of England, which was a good experience. And initially, I wanted to keep going down that track and become a mixed practice countryside vet. But after I'd spent so much time in different countries that being, at one location for the rest of my life, running a veterinary clinic, appealed less and less to me, and I became more interested in also, new treatment options and the science behind the treatment options, and I realized that I enjoyed working in an international environment. So towards the end of my PhD, I was approached about a role in technical marketing at Novartis Animal Health in Switzerland. And I saw that as an opportunity to combine my, veterinary expertise with the science training that I had with the PhD and my interest in innovation and international work in this role. So I decided to take up that offer.
Wow, that's so interesting. And, I'm curious, when did you feel like you were first truly beginning to gain traction with your career?
Yeah, it's hard to pin down a certain moment in time there. In principle, the role at Novartis was a great fit from the get-go. It really, it played to my strengths, and I really enjoyed the work. I learned a lot, and it pushed me outside of my comfort zone in many ways. And that was a good starting point, and it allowed me to build my skills and get experience in a corporate setting. And then during one of the reorganizations, and large companies tend to reorganize on a regular basis. For me, that was new at the time, but it provided an opportunity. It included the creation of global function, and I was given the opportunity to lead a function that was called technical services, which came with a very broad area of responsibility, spanning from R&D areas to marketing and sales support, pharmacovigilance, and what was called product stewardship, and it was for small animals and farm animal products. So this is when I really learned the most about the industry as a whole, the different market segments. I traveled to different parts of the world, and with the colleagues in the respective countries, I learned about the markets in their areas and their geographies, and it gave me a great opportunity to also build up some management skills. I had a small team in Basel that directly reported to me, but most of the work was actually with people around the world in the different countries, and they didn't report directly to me. So it was, I guess, leading by influencing would be the HR term, if you like, and that helped a lot. And I have to also say that the company provided great support in form of executive programs, but also, senior management was very supportive at that time. And from there, everything, fell in place, and the opportunities kind of presented themselves. The next big step was going to the human side, to the Novartis Institute of Biomedical Research in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where Novartis had just built up this research and discovery center 2 years before, and it was really a fantastic opportunity and experience to look into human drug discovery, and in this setting, in the middle of, surrounded by places like MIT and Harvard Med School and biotech startup companies and more established companies, and then Novartis trying to sort of harvest all that. And I think at the year when I was at the site there, they hired more than 1,000 people and scientists into the organization. So there was a lot of dynamic there that obviously from an animal health company perspective, we hadn't quite experienced in that form. And my job there was to look for innovation, for opportunities of technologies and products to bring into the animal health space. And that was a fantastic opportunity to learn about both sides, new technologies, and experience what's going on the human side.
Wow, you've had so many interesting experiences and opportunities in your career so far. I'm curious, what has been the most surprising thing to you during your career in the animal health industry up to this point?
Yeah, I guess one thing that surprised me from the beginning and also was some reason for frustration was how long things take to transfer from one area to the other. And when we look at biotherapeutics, that's a perfect example. It's more than 30 years from the launch of the first monoclonal antibody in humans to when Cytopoint hit the market. And that I felt was always a little bit frustrating for me that it doesn't go faster, that there's no more the openness to take risk was a bit limited in those days in animal health, and there were hurdles to do that. So and that was surprising to me, especially coming from academia. Or doing my PhD and being in private practice, you see these companies as big and powerful and lots of resources, and yet there is this hurdle to innovate. And that really surprised me from the very first years that I worked in industry, that we couldn't be more agile and more innovative, really.
Yes, because it sounds like in order to be agile and innovative, there also has to be an element of speed in there. I understand some of the regulatory stuff and that sort of thing, but seems like a paradox. You're trying to be innovative and things are not moving fast enough. I'm also curious, how have you seen the industry change over the years?
Yes, it's changed dramatically, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, and it keeps changing rapidly and in more ways that we can even cover in our interview here. I think that the spin out of Sweetis really kickstarted a new area in animal health that wasn't only marked by consolidation. I think that was a little bit the fear around the industry for a long time that there will be too much consolidation at the top. But I think what also happened, it made room for more innovation and more smaller companies starting up, and it also triggered more interest from investors, from the investment community, and that together created an environment that not only allows innovation, it requires innovation to further growth, and this created an environment in the industry that made it much more dynamic. And I think we only seen the beginning of that. So the industry has changed dramatically since I started in 2001. And I think it will continue to change. And it's not only the animal health industry. I think the general pet and farming industry, everything seems to be in flux at the moment, which will lead to further changes.
Yes, and I'd like to get your thoughts on the future of the industry too. What does your crystal ball say about the future of the animal health industry?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't actually think you need a crystal ball to see the trends at the moment. They're quite strong. I think the growth will be driven by demand in form of the animal protein food side and for farm animals, and pet owners' expectation for veterinary care and treatment options. And I think we are experiencing the beginning of a boom in animal health and the broader industry. and that is based on innovation. And when I say innovation, I don't mean only new drugs. I mean all forms of innovation. Digital innovation, insurance companies, how veterinarians adapted to the pandemic. Now, I think there's a lot of innovation in all of this. Distribution is changing, and so on. So I think the changes are impacting many aspects of animal health, and the trends are quite strong. And I as I said, I don't think you need to be a magician or have a crystal ball to see the future in which we're going. But it will be a bit harder to answer what exactly will happen in what segment and what time. That maybe is more something for a crystal ball.
Well, that all makes sense, and it sounds like you're optimistic about the future of the industry, which is it's good to hear that. I'd love for you to share with our listeners about the kinds of projects that you're up to today.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and the CEO of an animal health biotech company called Invitex. Our business model at Invitex is based on partnerships with best-in-class human biotech companies that offer unique and advanced technologies that are specifically suited to discover and generate biotherapeutics for veterinary medicine. So we built a small but very experienced in-house team in all relevant areas. And we partnered the other components. So our approach has been to combine expertise from the human biotech and pharma side and the animal health side. And this approach allows us to access the most advanced technologies for both drug discovery and product development and manufacturing. But the work is done by the actual experts. And it allows us to be lean and very capital efficient as our funds go directly into the drug programs rather than infrastructure and equipment. And this approach has enabled us to build a powerful discovery and development platform. And after only 2 years, a robust drug pipeline with roughly within roughly 2 years, and multiple programs in or about to enter the pilot POC phase this year. So it's very exciting, and another challenge for me personally in the role as a CEO.
Yes, you're right there in the middle of that innovation, and that's so exciting to hear about that. And I'm fascinated, in general in life about how some people are they're so successful, other people can't seem to find their way to success. You have had a tremendous success in your career. I'm curious about some of your daily habits that you believe have allowed you to achieve the success that you've had.
Yeah, well, like most other people, I guess I'm actually not I'm not very organized, and I don't have these daily routines that you hear from other CEOs or people that have articles in business magazines. So I don't do a 10-mile run every morning, and I don't do yoga or anything like that. I don't necessarily have a fixed daily habit. I think my days are very flexible, especially now with all the time in the home office, no travel, no in-person meetings, no commute. I really actually enjoy a somewhat unstructured day, and maybe that's it. Maybe I really don't need daily habits or a structured day to be productive. I enjoy it to be a little bit looser. Some of my coworkers and family will probably say that's not always optimal, and I recognize that there is some certain organization you need to have and timelines and so on. So I can do that, of course, but I don't have a secret routine or habit that would be the foundation of a successful career.
Well, it sounds like it's working very well for you. I'm curious, what time do you typically wake up in the morning, and is there anything that you do in the morning? I know you said unstructured, don't have a typical routine, but what time do you wake up, and how do you organize the first few hours of your day?
Yeah, the mornings, I start around 6 o'clock, and my routine really evolves around being with my family and getting our 3 children to school on time. And once that's done, and I typically start work around 8:30. Obviously there are exceptions where I need to go on a call really early or stay on the phone really late. But in principle, that's sort of the starting time around 8 o'clock. And I do go through a to-do list for the day. So that is a routine, and I guess that's some structure to the day, what I need to complete on a given day or in a given week. And that's how I start my work. And then I hopefully have a few hours to dedicate to actually thinking and working through certain issues or plans before the first call start with the team or collaborators and so on. So that's how my day starts typically.
Well, I'm curious, most successful people have, or many of them have a mentor who's made a big impact on their career. Do you have a mentor? And if so, what mentor has made the biggest impact on your career so far?
Yeah, I don't think there's one particular person, but it's more like a handful of people that had a big impact. And that includes, former colleagues, family and friends, and as much as people that I worked with or were in senior management roles, like George Gunn, the former head of Novartis Animal Health, who obviously provided support and opportunities for me during my time at Novartis, and I always had good advice over the years. If I had to name one person that had a big impact throughout my career, I guess George would be the one. But I usually try to find people that can give me feedback, especially when I get into a new role. I try to get a sort of an informal coach to get some guidance in the areas that I'm not so familiar with, and to get some frank feedback. And I've found that very, very helpful to reflect on things, and I'm not shy to ask questions in areas that I'm not so experienced in, and this has been true, I think, throughout the different roles I had. I moved into different roles in different areas with always moved me a little bit out of the comfort zone, which is a good thing, I think. And that's true today with the CEO role. There are certain aspects that are new to me, and I'm very willing to listen to people that have that experience and have done it before. So I think that's important, and I can only recommend that no matter how senior you are or versed you think you are in a certain role, get somebody who is somewhat independent and can give you feedback.
Yes, that's good advice. I've noticed that successful people are often resilient people. What has been the biggest adversity that you've had to fight through during your career?
Yeah, I think for me personally, the most difficult times were where big changes happened, and if you're in a management position, that's always difficult. It's difficult for everybody, but leading a team through a reorganization or a M&A situation, it is tough, and it is very emotional. You sometimes don't necessarily know what's going on in all details, and you can see the anxiety of everybody in the organization, and to be able to kind of stay calm, stay course, and give some sort of guidance and direction to the people that you work with, and receiving the same from other people you work with is I think very important. And I felt these are probably the most difficult times that I experienced in my career, when everything seems to tick along, and then there's this big change, and it throws out everything up in the air, and this is happening on a regular basis. If you decide to go into industry, you need to be prepared to weather that storm and work through that. But for me personally, to do that, to lead a group of people or a part of the organization through these changes, that I think is, I personally found that the most challenging and draining in many ways.
Well, that makes sense. Juergen, what advice would you give the younger version of yourself?
Yeah, I think, don't try to be something that you're not. Find an area, a profession or work or something that you enjoy doing and where you're good at. Focus on your strengths and apply them to do a good job. I think when you deliver good work, when you're engaged and committed, that will create opportunities. And you need to seize those and not be afraid of change or taking risks when these opportunities come up. I think that's certainly what, reflecting back on each step, I think that was that when I tried to do that, it usually led down the right path, even though it wasn't fully planned out beforehand.
That's really good advice. We find that most successful people tend to have idiosyncrasies that are actually their superpowers. What idiosyncrasy do you have?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you need to ask the people around me what that would be. I'm sure my teenage son would be able to list a few of these quirky habits. I don't know. I can't actually. I don't have one habit that I think would be a superpower, quite frankly.
Well, what message or principle do you wish you could teach everyone?
Well, be open to other people, to other cultures, ideas. That I think that works in is general life, but also at work. It's quite important that I think you keep an open mind and not only go down a trodden path. And whatever happens, try to make the best out of it and stay positive. I think that's may not work for everybody, but I can say for me I didn't always succeed in that, but I think that would be something that leads to a positive outcome, I think.
That's a good outlook. Some people say they've had a key book that they've read that helped them to change their mindset or their approach to success. Do you have a key book in your life that has impacted you the most? I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, the book that impressed me is the one that's called "What's Got You Here Won't Get You There" by Marshall Goldsmith. I actually had the pleasure to meet Mr. Goldsmith and listen to one of his presentations. It's very entertaining. I think the title says it all. What gets you to a certain position, what makes you good in one role doesn't necessarily make you good in another one. In fact, sometimes the opposite is the case. And there are many examples. I think a good example is when you're sort of a scientist and really into data and details and whatnot, and then you get promoted to a more managerial role. The detail orientation and the focus on the science alone, won't really help you in your new managerial role. And I think that's one aspect from that book that sort of formalized that thinking that you need to adapt to the new role, and it needs new skills, and that you need to not do it all alone and win every battle, but that you have to build a team and that is functional, and that you have a responsibility to make that functional. And I think that was a good insight. And the way he presented it made it stuck in my head for many years.
That is some good insight. Are there other books that you believe that our listeners should read?
Yeah, I don't know. I like to read mainly for pleasure, besides what I have to read for work and publications and things like that. I'm not sure I'm the best to give a reader's list. No, not really.
Well, you've got the mic. What is one thing that you'd like to share with our listeners of the People of Animal Health podcast before you drop the mic today?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you again for having me and for listening to my story. I think these are very exciting times to be in animal health. There's a lot happening, and we should take the opportunity and and lead the change, be open, innovative, and make the best of it. I think it's a good place to be, and we can make a difference, and whether that's for pets and their owners or addressing the issues around farm animals. I think it's exciting times. Thank you.
And you've certainly had the opportunity to make a difference and are continuing to do that for our industry. And we're very grateful. And thank you so much for being here on the People of Animal Health podcast today.